Cheers, guys, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Pancast. How much do you tip on takeout food? We're going to talk about that today. I put up a poll, see what you guys think. We're going to have an update on this new Matfer carbon steel skillet. Going to talk about some Buyer utensils that I got on sale. We're going to talk about Bed Bath & Beyond, possibly going out of business, at least closing a bunch of stores. Are there any deals to be had as we circle like vultures around Bed Bath & Beyond? And we're going to talk about why it's good to be a whiskey drinker in Utah, of all places. Let's get started. Okay, the other day, some friends and I were talking about takeout food. A couple of us had gone to different restaurants and gotten some takeout. And you know, if you go in to pick up takeout food these days, they often have some sort of iPad or touch screen. They swipe your card and it pops up there, would you like to leave a tip? And on takeout, a lot of people don't know what to do. Now, at a nice sit-down restaurant, you order wine, you got a waiter or waitress, maitre d', blah, blah, blah. You're tipping 15, 20% easy there. But this is takeout. You're going in, they're not really doing any extra work. Do you guys tip? I put up a poll, and it turns out that 65% of you guys either leave none up to 5%, and a further 16% leave 10% or less. So people definitely tip less on takeout food. Now, this is not a scientific poll. Of course, these days, what is science? It's probably as scientific as anything else. But almost 400 people have responded. And I think if you leave 10% or less, you're in a group along with 81% of the other respondents in this poll. So I think you're pretty safe, 10% or less. Seems like a good rule of thumb to me. Let's do a quick Matfer update. I put up a video the other day on seasoning this new updated model Matfer skillet. I ran into a couple of problems on whether the pan was coated or not. So I have an update here. I have been talking to Matfer, and the short update is there is an update coming. So I don't have that resolved yet or the full information on that. So they are on it though. And I got to say, having been in business previously, launching anything is difficult. Launching a new product internationally with multiple languages, probably even a little bit tougher. I'm one of the guinea pigs on this pan, and they are on it though. They're going to figure out what is going on, and I'll let you guys know as soon as I find out. However, under that video, I got some questions and some feedback. And as we all know, when we season a Matfer pan, when it is brand new, they call for the use of salt, along with oil and potato peels and other stuff, but the use of salt. Someone named Comes a Horseman wrote in and asked, why do you use salt? Now, I don't know exactly, and I do note that Matfer is the only company that I'm aware of that calls for using salt for that initial seasoning on a carbon steel skillet. Buyer, Moviel, they don't call for doing that. What I think is the reason for that salt is that it's slightly abrasive. When you see people talking about cleaning cast iron, also cleaning some of these carbon steel skillets, some of the other manufacturers, they say you can use some coarse salt, pour it in the pan and rub that around there. I guess it's kind of abrasive. It will take off any residue, any stuck on food or burnt on gunk. So people do use salt to clean the pans. In that initial seasoning, Matfer is the only one I'm aware of that uses it. And my theory is, and I think it's just as a slightly abrasive cleaner. I slid an egg in that video. Every time we season a carbon steel skillet around here, we do the fried egg test and we try and slide an egg. I don't know why we do it. It's fun. We always do it though. And no matter what, every time I slide an egg, someone will write in with some sort of version of course an egg slides with that much butter. This time it was Mark Mays. It says, any pan should cook eggs without sticking when you use a pound of butter. Did I use a pound of butter? No. I probably used a good tablespoon, but what I want to show here is that it is not the butter. You can absolutely stick an egg even if you use a lot of butter. And here I want to show an example. Now I haven't stuck an egg yet in this Matfer pan. This is with a different pan. I think this is a Buyer. So same pan, same carton of eggs, same stick of butter, same stovetop, just about 3 minutes apart. This egg slides, this egg sticks. What's the difference? There is more to it than the butter. I promise you. I went into depth on that with another video on how to slide eggs in carbon steel if you want to drill down on that. But if you see me slide an egg and it looks like there's a lot of butter in the pan, there probably is, but there is more to it than that to get the egg to slide. Now, if you're interested in what I'm pouring today, this is a little Buffalo Trace whiskey. Not super rare, but kind of hard to find sometimes. And here I wanted to talk about drinking whiskey in Utah. Utah is actually a good place to be a whiskey drinker. Why? Because there aren't many of us here, relatively speaking. So it's difficult to find things if you're into rare whiskeys and bourbons and such. Something like a Pappy Van Winkle, the one that everybody wants. It is difficult to find that in Utah. You have to register for kind of a drawing or an allotment, and your odds of winning are very low. So it's still difficult to find the ultra rare stuff here. However, in that kind of middle ground, things like Buffalo Trace or maybe some of the Elijah Craigs, some of the things that are kind of difficult to find other places, you can often walk into the store here in Utah and they're just there on the shelf. Now, my brother down in Alabama, Mississippi, he's a big, rare kind of whiskey connoisseur, if you will. And he tells me that these bottles, it may cost $50 for a bottle of this Buffalo Trace here in Utah. There's a secondary market in other places where people will pay about twice that. So now I do not buy mine for arbitrage or trading or reselling or anything like that. I buy mine to drink and enjoy myself. But I do find it interesting that there is a secondary market for some of these whiskeys. And my brother tells me there's even a secondary market for used whiskey bottles. You can apparently get quite a bit of money for an empty Pappy Van Winkle bottle. Who knew? Let's talk about used cookware. Do you guys buy used cookware? I do not. But someone named Rico567 wrote in about this Stove 4-quart round Dutch oven. He says they're $250 to $320 online. He found one of the same ones used on eBay for $25. $25 for a used Dutch oven. That sounds like a great price, but me personally, I do not buy used cookware. If I ever find a deal on some maybe vintage French copper from back in the day or something like that, I might try it. But I'm just too much of a germaphobe and I worry too much. You never know what was cooked in the pan. It's kind of like buying a used mattress. I don't know. I just couldn't sleep on a used mattress. And this brings up a crazy story. One time I went to a Dutch oven cooking class and it was going to be a series and it had all these people that had won all these competitions with Dutch ovens. And the very first lesson we get in there and these guys were talking about being cooks at hunting camps and started talking about all the stuff they had cooked in their Dutch ovens. Not only venison, I don't like any type of wild game in my cookware. I worry about that wasting disease, which is kind of endemic out west these days, at least in the deer. So I don't touch venison, but they were also talking about things like cooking a porcupine in their Dutch ovens. So when I go to the thrift store and I kind of look at the pans, sometimes you see some old cast iron, some old Dutch ovens in there. I'm always worried about what was cooked in those Dutch ovens. I think I'll just pay up for new. Thank you very much. A tangent to that too is older cast iron. You always hear about the horror stories. I saw a lady online one time who thought she had found a deal on a vintage cast iron little baked bean pot. It was not a baked bean pot. They used to melt metals in there. They used to melt lead in there. You don't want to get lead poisoning. Now, if you do buy some older cast iron, you can get a lead test to check for that. Just make sure no one has melted lead. People used to melt lead in cast iron to make fishing weights, believe it or not. So you want to be doubly careful if you buy used cookware. Not for me. I'll just pay up for the new. Now, Rico mentioned the price on these stoves. I also noted this week that Bed Bath & Beyond is closing 150 stores. They're not doing very well. And I thought, well, you know, they got all kinds of kitchen stuff. I will check there and see if they got any deals. I looked at the price on these Dutch ovens at Bed Bath & Beyond. They still got them at full retail, right around $350. I got this one on Cutlery and More. Don't have any relationship with them. I just found a deal there. Mine was about $125. These days you can find them also at pretty good deals on Amazon. But it brings up a point here with Bed Bath & Beyond. I know retail is tough, but if you're selling the exact same product that someone else is selling online, you've got to price match. There's no way anyone should pay $350 for a Dutch oven from Bed Bath & Beyond when you can get the exact same one for $200 less from other online retailers. Retail is tough, no one asked me, but I understand why Bed Bath & Beyond is in trouble. Anyway, let's circle like vultures. If you guys see any deals at Bed Bath & Beyond, make sure you post them. And if I find some screaming ones, I will make sure I blast them out there in the next Pancast. Now, speaking of needing a drink, did anybody check their retirement funds at the end of this week? Holy cow, what a whooping. Apparently, I am heavily invested in some sort of aggressive loss fund. Geez, Lou, I talked to my financial advisor. He says, don't worry, everything is still on track for retirement. I just have to work until I'm 143. Now, it was a brutal week in the market, down about 4.8%, almost 5% on the S&P. And there's an old kind of rule of thumb in finance. If you have some retirement accounts, you can kind of take out 4% a year and never go broke in retirement. So if the market went down 4.8% this week, it essentially lopped a year off of all of our retirements. Good Lord, it was brutal. But when it comes to stocks and money and inflation, it looks like inflation is way up. Prices of most things are going up. In turn, though, prices of a lot of financial assets like our retirement funds are actually deflating. They're going down. As it relates to things we talk about around here, here's an article from Deseret News commenting on it, talking about why food prices are going up at the fastest rate in the last 40 years. So this past year, this past month, food prices up 11.4%. Ouch. Over the last year, poultry up 17%, eggs 40%, dairy products up 16%. I think we're all seeing a lot of this inflation in food prices. What are you guys doing about it? One thing I've been doing, and probably contributing a little bit to the supply shortages and to the inflation in my own little way. These days, I go ahead and buy 2 of everything. Instead of buying 1, I buy an extra. So if I'm buying laundry detergent and there's a good price on it, I'll buy 2. And as I use through one, I've got that 1 saved up. I rotate stock. And then I buy another one. So I've always got 1 in reserve. That way you kind of got a cushion, and then you can kind of jump on sales when they arise, and you're never quite stuck. Now, it's only hoarding when your neighbor does it. When you do it, you're prepping, but I am not buying 10 or 20 of anything in anticipation of arbitrage or sticking it to my neighbor if they get stuck without something and jacking up the price and reselling this stuff. Just buying a little bit extra to make sure me and my family are taken care of. And I pretty much encourage everyone else to do that as well. Make sure you and your own are taken care of. Okay, last Pancast, I mentioned the big sale they had at Buyer, and I bought some new utensils. Now, I got a bunch of these old kind of plastic cheapo utensils that have been around for years and years, and what I like to do around here, we have a nice kitchen upstairs, get nice stuff up there. Some of that moderate level stuff, when we upgrade upstairs, it comes down here to this kitchen, and then as stuff filters through, the stuff from this kitchen goes out to the camper, and then from the camper, it goes to the DI, which is Deseret Industries, which is the thrift store, big thrift store chain around Salt Lake City. Anyway, Buyer had a big sale. I kind of went overboard. I bought a 10-piece set of these B Bois utensils. So I've got turners, I've got spoons, I've got spatulas, forks. And what I like about these is that they have this beechwood handle with the beeswax on there. And they're metal, so I'm definitely not going to use them in some of my cookware. I'm going to use them in my stainless steel, my carbon steel, definitely. Also on cookie sheets, not worried about that. But maybe some of my enameled stuff, I'm not going to use these in it. But they got wooden handles. They look really nice. And there's a little bit of a texture to the metal. I believe they said this was stone washed stainless steel. And if you wear stonewashed blue jeans these days, I think they lock you up before somebody can beat you senseless. But let's take a look at these, and if you compare these old plastic ones to the new ones, I think these look a lot nicer. Now, just being a little bit funny here, let's try them out. Old one, completely functional. Nothing wrong with it. New one, significantly better, I gotta say. Just kidding around, there's nothing wrong with the old ones. Then again, I can't be expected to dip soup like a common peasant. And I'll put a link to these below. If you do check them out, you don't have to go crazy and buy 10 of them. You can buy them individually. You can buy a 5-piece set. Might be a little bit more reasonable way to go. I went kind of overboard, which always drives the wife crazy. But they look nice, and I like them. Be careful out there. Watch your retirement portfolios carefully. And we'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Pancast.